Hello and welcome to episode 46 of the Weighing Room, where this week it's just the two of us and we're back previewing 8 races on the Saturday afternoon from Newmarket, Ascot and Redcar. And also we're chucking in the Group One Prix de Triomphe from ParisLongchamp on Sunday. Paul's joining me this week. Paul, how are we?
Yeah, flying. Looking forward to it. Probably one of the favourite weekends on the racing calendar year. So really looking forward to the Arc on Sunday. We've got a busy Saturday in between, and I know at the time we're recording here in Ireland in the northeast, it's absolutely lashing outside. So that's the sign the jumps are coming, James.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously we're looking forward to the jumps coming, but we have got a matter of just this flat card this week. And as you say, you've got two big meetings from Longchamp. We've got Newmarket, we've got Ascot, we've got Redcar, and we're going to get stuck into all of it right now. As I mentioned, there's 8 races on the Saturday with Newmarket and Ascot probably showing off the best card with the Group One Sun Chariot Stakes and also 2 Group Threes from Ascot. And obviously we had to talk about the Prix de Triomphe, didn't we? It's one of the biggest races in the world. 20 runners go to post this year, and we'll be going into more depth into that at the end of the podcast. But we're going to start, Paul, at Newmarket this week, and it's the 131 British EBF Premier Fillies handicap over 1 mile 2 furlongs. Who do you fancy in the opener then this week then, Paul?
I've gone with Persist in this, James. I thought Persist was a bit more value than the winning distance of a neck suggests that Haydock last time out, where this daughter of Frankel was recording her second success in 8 starts. She managed to finish 7th at 28 in the Sandringham earlier this season, and I think she gets the tentative nod from me anyway. So it's Persist here in the opener at Newmarket. Yeah,
Persist was one I liked when looking at this around the 13-2 mark. Obviously, William Hagger's going for that Trainers' Championship, isn't he? It's neck and neck really with Charlie Appleby. He's chucked a lot of horses out this week. He really wants to go for it. Obviously, Appleby has as well. But Persist has got a big chance in this around the 13-2 mark. I've gone for one just slightly below, around the 7-1 mark. And it's Crystal Estrella for Sir Michael Stow and Richard Kingscote. This filly hasn't been seen all that often, but it's one of them. It's just a typical Sir Michael Stow that could just go on and improve now into handicap company. And off a mark of 89, I thought was just one to watch. We still don't know too much about this horse. Only been seen 3 times. Once as a juvenile, went 7th, and if she needed that run that day, needed the experience, like a lot of horses do when they go on debut. But if you look at what she's done this season, she was 4th at Sandown on a first try at 1 mile 2, and that was behind Emily Upjohn. We all know how good Emily Upjohn is. So the form's not bad behind her. And then on a last start at Goodwood, she actually got off the mark, and it was in taking start. It was just over 4 lengths she went on to win by. That was on soft ground as well. As you were saying, in Ireland, the rain's coming. The rain's supposed to be coming Friday evening, according to the forecast. Ascot, Newmarket and Redcar, and also obviously Longchamp have had rain. It seems to be raining everywhere. So the ground might have some juice in it. I think that'd be absolutely fine for this horse. And as I mentioned, off a mark of 89, I just want to see how she gets on in a handicap. And at 7-1, I'm happy to play her in this one. So next we move on to Ascot's first race, Paul, and it's quite a nice one. It's the listed Openings Roost Stakes over 5 furlongs. There's a lot of familiar faces from the season gone by. All these sprinters taking on each other as they do throughout the season. Who are you siding with in this one?
Well, I think if none the worse, having contested a couple of Group 1s on his last 2 starts, I think King's Lynn can take advantage of a drop in grade for the trainer-jockey combination of Andrew Balling and David Probert. Prior to those Group 1s, King's Lynn just about clung on for success in the Group 2 Temple Stakes. That was at Haydock back in May. But I think if those Group 1s haven't left a mark, I think King's Lynn will take the beating here.
Yeah, King's Lynn obviously going for the Queen. Well, the King now. But they had one run educator on Salisbury, and it was second. I think this is the second one that's going to run it, unless I'm mistaken, the one that runs Friday. So it'd be nice, obviously, to have a winner for obviously what's gone on over the past few weeks. And King's Lynn definitely got a big chance around the 11-2 mark. I've had a bit of a swing at one in this one, Paul. And it's a horse I tipped up at the start of the season. It hasn't gone to plan this season at all. But now with wind surgery, I think the Ed Walker train came from the dark around 16-1. Could have a bit of a say. Look, I might be getting it completely wrong, because you look at these last 2 runs and they've just not been good enough at all. But having that wind surgery, and if you look at his runs around this time of the year over his career, he normally likes to to perform to his best around September, October, just before the end of the season. And I just think at 16 to 1, he's definitely got an each way squeak. If you look at some of his form throughout his career, at the start of his career, he cost 480,000 guineas as a yearling. So they obviously thought he was going to be quite a nice horse. He was seen 4 times last year, started with a third at Musselburgh. He then went to Newbury and got off the mark. He beat Kings Lynn, Tis Marvellous, and Garrus, obviously all nice horses, and you took Kings Lynn, but he's got the better of him on that occasion last year. He was looking to make it back-to-back wins, and he was just beaten by neck from Lazuli, obviously a good horse for Godolphin over the years as well. Lazuli went on to frank the form at the end of last year as well. Came from the dark, rounded off last season by winning the Group 3 Coral Charge at Sandown in July from Arecibo and Happy Romance. So the form of when I was just looking through just stacks up against good sprinters that have gone on to perform really well last season, this season. But Thor came from the dark. It hasn't gone well this season. 10th on both occasions, beat 2 home on its first race when looking to win the Group 3 Palisade Stakes at Newmarket again. And then in the Group 2 Temple Stakes, then beat a horse home. Something's obviously amiss. Hasn't been seen since May. But obviously, like he's had the wind up now, I just think that he could put him bang on, having a little bit of a break. At 16 to 1, I was happy to play him each way and see if he could retain any of the form he had from last year. So back to Newmarket, and it sees £150,000 Tattersalls October Auction Stakes, Class 2 handicap over 6 furlongs, Paul. I think this is quite a tricky race with plenty of runners in the field. Who did you come down on?
Yeah, it's wide open, James, and I've gone with Safari Dream, he was first past the post on his last 3 starts, was placed second 2 runs ago, having caused interference close home at Sandown. That was back in August. I find it interesting that Neil Callaghan retains the ride, having steered Safari Dream to his last success. That was at Windsor back on the 1st of September. And that was the only time Neil Callaghan partnered the Rod Millman trained runner. So he probably needs to find a little bit more. And he is short enough in the betting, but I think it's a significant jockey booking by the Millman. So it's Safari Dream for me.
Yeah, he's around 10 to 1 in the market at the moment, best price, which isn't a bad price at all to play each way. And like you say, the jockey booking does say a lot for this one. So yeah, Safari Dream obviously got a big chance. I've gone for one at a slightly bigger price, and it's a really tough race, this, isn't it? And you can see why ITV put it up and might put it in the ITV7 and stuff, because it's very tough to pick from. But I'm going to have a little go at Land of Summer for Richard Hannon. Look, Richard Hannon's form over the last 2 weeks has absolutely fell off a cliff. He's only had 2 winners over his last 66, which isn't brilliant when you're trying to explain to tip a horse of his at the moment. But it only takes a few wins. We saw Charlie Hills last week. He had 3 or 4 winners and he's back to form. It only takes that. And Richard Hannon, obviously, he throws out plenty of horses throughout the 2 weeks period when you pick up the strike rates. And if he does have a bad 2 weeks, he obviously shows with his strike rate. But I think he can turn that form around. He's got some nice horses to run before the end of the season. And I think Land of Summer is one of these in this race. As I said, currently around the 20 to 1 mark, this filly should be knocking on the door on our past 2 runs, dropping down the handicap at the same time, which makes her quite appealing in this race. I just think she could have a big chance going close again. I think extra places will probably be on offer with so many runners. She was 4th of 16 at Glorious Goodwood in a nursery handicap of 83. She was last seen finishing 3rd on soft ground again at Goodwood in what was quite a valuable conditions event. She's now down to a mark of 81. She's drawn well. If you're looking at what happened in the Cambridgeshire, she's drawn quite high. I think she's a nice each way price at 20 to 1. I just thought Land of Summer. And Richard Hannon's known for in these valuable races. He's had, like, if you look at York, most of the seasons, he has in the Premier Yearling races. He normally gets these right. I think Land of Summer's got a big chance. One I will just put up as well around a similar price that I thought was interesting was Prairie Falcon for Michael Dodds. William Buick's booked. It was a nice winner last time out, and around 20 to 1 as well. That's got a big chance. But I will be playing Land of Summer in this one. So Ascot's next event we're going to cover, and the first group race of the day, Paul, is the prestigious Cumberland Lodge Stakes over the staying trip of 1 mile 4. Won by some nice horses in the past. And this year's field, although probably not to the same standard, does see quite a nice horse at the top of the market, where Hamish leads the field at 13 to 8. You've got High Definition for Aidan O'Brien, who was a shock declaration after at the anti-post stage around 4 to 1. Cresta at 9 to 2. Get Shirty 9 to 1. Third round, 10-1, you got 14-1 bar. That. Who did you come down on?
Yeah, well, I think as the betting reflects, Hamish is the one they have to beat. But I could see a big run from stable companion Candleford, who took the Duke of Edinburgh Stakes at Ascot back in June. He has disappointed in all 3 runs since then, but if bouncing back, I think he could be dangerous to totally dismiss at odds of around 14 or 16-1. So it's Candleford to outrun those odds for me.
Yeah, Candleford's been brilliant this season. Obviously, he won that valuable race, didn't he, for William Haggis at Royal Ascot. That was a great race in the Duke of Edinburgh Stakes. And since then, he's been tried in obviously tougher company and found things slightly tougher. But his latest run, his fourth wasn't too bad, was it? At Newmarket, he might just set him up for a bigger race here. And at 16-1, he can't be dismissed, can he? I've gone for the other William Haggis one. I have gone for the favourite in this, Hamish. I just think he's got the absolute best form on offer. And I don't think it's, like I said, the greatest renewal of the Cumberland Lodge ever. Even though high definition is a very good horse, very quirky. He's probably obviously going to go from the front. We know Hamish stays further. He could just come cruising up on the outside and just do him for a bit of stamina. And that's what I'm hoping, personally. He has been an absolute brilliant horse for the yard over the years. He won some decent handicaps. He was always set up for the Ebor in the 2 seasons, but he's had some niggly problems. But he's taken his form to a new level. He won the Group 3 September Stakes last year, beat Hookham, who obviously come out to be a Group 1 winner since. He finished a good 4th at Royal Ascot in the Group 2 Hardwick Stakes. It's one of the best renewals I've seen for a long time when it comes to form, because all the horses came out and won after that. He's been seen twice this season. Landed the Group 3 Ormond Stakes at Chester over 1 mile 5. And then last time out in the Irish St. Leger, he wasn't far behind Kyprios, who we know is unbeaten this season. He's been absolutely brilliant. And he chased him home all the way over 1 mile 6. I've got no problem with him dropping to 1 mile 4, even though he does stay further. Because he's won over 1 mile 4. He won't mind the soft ground at all. I just think at 13-8, I thought he'd be short, and I think he's a brilliant bet personally in this one. So Hamish for me. So the feature event of the afternoon at Newmarket on Saturday is the Group 1 Royal Bahrain Sun Chariot Stakes. And for me, Paul, this Group 1 every season, it does lack a bit of depth. But this season, I think it's an absolute cracking renewal. The horses that have gone in, obviously, we have some horses supplemented as well. And I'll just talk you through the market. We've got Saffron Beach looking to win it again, 6-4 favourite. Homeless Songs, a shock to me massively that Dermot Wells wanted to bring him here, not go to France. Backed into 11-4 as we speak. We got Laurel, who was supplemented for this race by Jonathan Thady Gosling, 6-1. Prosperous Voyage of Group 1 winner at 15-2. Grand Dam obviously performed well, and Lights On he's no bad horse in this. We also have Fontaine, Mrs. Fitzherbert, and By All Means at the higher odds. Who are you going for, Paul?
Well, I did have a second look at Laurel. I thought 2 from 2. She's a fascinating runner, but it's Homeless Songs, who was a bit disappointing when finishing 4th and 9 behind Paris Galore in the Matron Stakes last time out. Probably paying the price for over racing in the early stages, but prior to that, she showed a devastating turn of foot. First at Leopardstown when taking a Guineas trial, that was back in April, and then absolutely bolting up in the 1,000 Guineas in May. I think if she settles and comes back to that form, I think it'll take a fair performance to beat Homeless Songs. See,
I almost agree with you, because when Homeless Songs was put in, I just thought, I can't believe this. And the price it was around 5-1. It was ridiculous. Yeah. If she does bounce back to the form of that Guineas run, she'll win this. And if the soft ground does come as well, even though last time out on soft ground, she probably didn't perform to her best. But what I don't like about horses sometimes, when they have that little break, if they haven't had that proper against real good horses to then go straight on the track, and then you've got Saffron Beach leading, you've got Pearls Galore leading, you've got to go and chase them. It's tough when you haven't had a run. So maybe just having that run under her belt. What was it? First time since May, wasn't it? Since winning that
That's right,
Irish 1,000 Guineas. This might just set it up for her. But I am going to take a chance on Laurel, because I think this filly is special. And I do think she has a lot to find on ratings. Well, she got £22 on ratings to find with Homeless Songs, but she's only been seen twice. And in her 2 runs to date, she's shown, even though she hasn't really beat much, it's been in what maiden novice company. She's due to take this step up, and supplementing her for a race like this, maybe knowing some of these horses could stay in. We knew Saffron Beach was going to run because she ran brilliantly Irish Champions weekend, and she wants to retain the title in this race. But for for even Jonathan Eddie Gosden to chuck Laurel in against a horse of her caliber and not even thinking Homer Songs is going to turn up, I think tells you everything you need to know, really. And I think she could be a seriously good horse. If obviously if she stays in training, which I hope she does next season. She made her debut in July at Newmarket on the July course. And if you look at how she just gathered pace. She went to win by 3 lengths going away. And it was a taking performance on debut. She had a little break since then. She returned at Kempton on the all-weather, over a mile again. And it's just like a flick behind the back of the neck. And she just flew. And the race was won within 3 or 4 strides. Look, she will have to improve. She will have to be much, much better than that. And hopefully she has improved. But being supplemented for this race, around 6 to 1, I just wanted to take my chance on Laurel and just see how good she is. I might be wrong. She might not be up to the standard of Group 1 yet. She might need more racing. But if she does go and win this, it does send a big message to that 1 mile division for fillies, doesn't it? Because on just a third run to beat horses like Homeless Songs and Saffron Beach, who are proven in this sphere. And even Prosperous Voyage, obviously beating Spiral. Spiral probably wasn't right that day. I mean, Spiral's come out and won a Group 1. Prosperous Voyage is no bad horse at all. So it's a good renewal of the race for me. But Laurel is the horse I'm going to play. And I just think she's really, really interesting. So another nice event on ITV that we're going to cover is the Group 3 John Guest Racing Bengough Stakes over 6 furlongs. And Paul, it's another one of them where it's familiar faces, familiar sprinters taking each other on again. Who did you come down on?
Well, I think the Dream on some of his best efforts would have a squeak at a bit of a price in this one. Her form is a bit hit and miss. She was last seen finishing 19th to 24 in the Air Gold Cup. And prior to that, she was held in listed company. That was at Newmarket back in August. She's already a Group 3 winner. And if on a going day, I think the Dream could go close here.
Yeah, the Dream, slightly disappointing in some of his efforts, but he has got some actually nice back form. So if she does turn up to some of that form at 16 to 1, she could play a part in the placings, couldn't she? Definitely. The horse I came down on, and look, I tipped this horse last time for the Sprint Cup and really, really fancied him. And I just thought coming back into Group 3 company, Rohan at 7 to 2, I thought was a brilliant price. I thought Rohan would be much short. I know Creative Force at the anti-post stage was at the top of the market around 11 to 4, maybe even shorter. And when that came out, Rohan was like a bigger price around 5 to 1. I think 7 to 2, I was expecting Rohan to be shorter. And if you can still get that 7 to 2 by the time it goes off and by the time this pod comes out, I think it's an absolutely great price. This horse has been absolutely superb for David Evans over the last few years. Winning a handicap off 55. They never thought this horse would go on to win Group 2 races, placed in Group 1s, hitting the frame in the biggest Group 1 sprint races around the world. Also, he has form on good, soft, heavy. He's just so versatile. And I just thought being dropped back into Group 3 company, he's never really going to have a more perfect chance since his win in the Wokingham this season to go and win a race. I'll just talk through some of his races this season. He's won back-to-back winnings of that Wokingham Stakes at Ascot. That's a bit like his cup final. He's set up for that. Winning off top weight this season, off a mark of 109. Since then, he's finished 4th at Newbury in the Hackwood Stakes. He's then gone on to finish 4th again in the Prix Maurice de Guise. That was behind Highfield Princess, Minzal and Garras. Obviously, Highfield Princess gone on to win Group 1s. Minzal's come out and won a Group 1. And Rohan was behind Minzal last time out in that Sprint Cup at Haydock. He's got so much form that stacks up behind so many nice horses in Group 1 company. To then drop him back into a Group 3, I just thought was odd in the first place because he's not a Group 3 horse. It's better than that. He's a Group 2, Group 1 horse. And I just thought he had every chance at 7 to 2. And it'd be Rohan for me. And I'm quite strong on him. One I will mention that's quite interesting is Flaming Rib, around 7 to 1. Some of the back form he's got, especially when last seen, I think, Ascot, when he was second to Perfect Power in the Commonwealth Cup. I think that's some really good form. And if getting back to that, I think around 7 to 1, Flaming Rib's got a big chance. But no, Rohan for me in this one, I think he's got an absolutely great chance. So Redcar have a race on ITV this weekend, and it's their feature race. It's the William Hill 2-year-old trophy over 6 furlongs. Paul, looks a tricky event, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is wide open, and I've come down. It's Washington Heights who gets the tentative vote for me now. Washington Heights was just collared close home in a competitive event at York when last seen. That was back in August. Prior to that, Washington Heights was second at Pontefract. But on that last time I was second at York, if he can reproduce something like that, I think can have a big say for jockey Tom Eves and trainer Kevin Ryan.
Yeah, you know what? I was between two horses, Washington Heights and the one I'm going to put up. And obviously, I'll be over the moon for you if Washington Heights win, but I'll be kicking myself because I looked in. He's got some cracking form. But I just came down on Barefoot Angel in the end for Richard Fahey. I think she's been absolutely superb this season. She made a debut on soft ground at Ripon over 6 furlong when she was second to the smart Swingalong, who obviously went to York and fragged that form in quite a nice race. Barefoot Angel also franked the form next time out. On a second start, went to Carlisle in a novice stakes, just got up late on, improved massively for that. For last time out to take the Group 3 Firth of Clyde Filly Stakes at Ayr. The turn of foot she showed that day was absolutely brilliant. She's progressing all the time. She's dropped back into listed company from Group 3 for this race. I think she looks progressive. She's got no problem on soft ground. If it does rain more at Redcar, I thought around 5-6 to 1 mark. I was happy to play her in this race. I think she's very progressive. So the final event on Saturday on ITV we're going to cover comes from Ascot, and it's another tough one. It's the Challenge Cup over 7 furlongs. Paul, I think you're going for one of your favourites in this one, aren't you?
Yeah, I've gone for an old, I wouldn't say reliable, but the character. I do think Silent Film has a great chance on his last time out second at Ascot for Charlie Appleby and Harry Davis. But I'm seeing 25 to 1 about Accidental Agents, and I can't bypass that. I think from stall 15, it's enough for me. You know, I think he's an each way play at 25. Charles Bishop takes the mount. Accidental Agent is drawn next door to Fresh. I think if he can latch on to some of the fancied runners and keep himself interested, I think he kind of an each way squeak at 25 to 1. So Accidental Agent, he's probably forgotten more about the game than I'll ever know. So yeah, I think he's got a bit of a chance, hasn't he? Huh?
Yeah, 25 to 1. You can't leave him alone at 25 to 1, can you? If you've been tipping him up all season, he's going to get it right at Ascot one time because he loves the track. He's obviously dropping slightly in the handicap, and where he's drawn, he's definitely got a chance. The one I've gone for is a very progressive horse, and it's Orban for David O'Meara. Ross O'Ryan takes the ride, which I like a lot because I'm a huge fan of Ross O'Ryan. And this horse is so progressive this season. Drawn in stall 9, would have liked to have been slightly higher, but it's not the end of the world. Hopefully he could get across. But Orban, if you look at what he's done this season, he was gone at the game really last season. He was struggling to even win much less a race than this. But this season they've got him back to a mark. I think it was around 87. He's gone on to win races, place in really valuable handicaps, and he's going up through the handicap. He's now off a mark of 100, and he's still hitting the frame in some really big races. And I've got no problem playing him around the 14 to 1 mark. He's been raced frequently this term by David O'Meara, knocking on the door, as I said, in these good handicaps. Around June and July, he was hitting the frame at Epsom, York, Ayr, and he then went on to land his first race of the season off the back of those runs at Glorious Goodwood in the Golden Mile handicap, and he bolted up off a mark of 87, up £8 to a mark of 95 at Ascot next time out over this course and distance. He made it 2 out of 2 in good style. He went up a further £4 at York at their Ebor meeting, and he was a good fourth behind stablemate Blue For You that day. He was giving away to the horse. And it was a good performance. Last time out off the same mark of 99, back at Goodwood, he was second behind I'm a Gambler. He only went down by a short head that day. I'm a Gambler since come out and gone to the Irish Champions weekend and landed a nice handicap at Leopardstown. He's got so much form stacking up. He's only gone up £1 to a mark of 100. I just think how progressive he's been. I'm happy to play him at 14 to 1. Hopefully with extra places on offer, he can hit the frame. So Orban, I think he'll have no problem if the ground does come soft as well, but he has won on good this season. I think he's got plenty in his favour. I just maybe like him drawn slightly higher. But yeah, I'm happy to play Orban at this for 14 to 1. So that's Saturday's racing covered from the UK, Paul. But we're going to finish on the big race, probably the biggest race of the flat season, with the Group One Prix de Triomphe. It's the pinnacle for middle distance horses. A full field of 20 go to post. Talk us through your selection, Paul.
Yeah, well, a couple of them I'm going to mention. You got Alpinist up there. I'd love to see you win for Sir Mark Prescott. Videni, I think, has got a great chance. Sumion on board from stall number 2. You got last year's winner, Torquedo Tasso, from stall 18, which mightn't be ideal, but has the right man on board in Frankie Dettori, and doesn't have the services from last year of Rene Pichelek, who has, I wouldn't say jumped ship. I know there's a link between the jockey and the owners, but he's gone with Mendocino, who got the better of Torquedo Tasso when the last met. And I think it's a big move from the jockey. I know there's a link there between the owner, but if he thought, and Torquedo Tasso has to have a serious chance, but you don't get many chances to win an Arc, and it's a big move from the jockey. So I think all things considered, and Mendocino's a massive price, but and not ideally drawn probably in stall number 1. But I'm going to have to sit up and take note here of the Rene Pichelek selection, and for that reason, I'd have happy to play small each way play on Mendocino.
Yeah, 28 to 1 is currently obviously a big price. Last year's winner Torquedo Tasso was around 80, 100 to 1. So big price winners of the race have come over the last few years. And the only thing is, it's stall 1, isn't it? If he can get out of stall 1, no problem. He could have a big chance, and 28 to 1 is worth watching out for. I've gone down a similar route, and obviously with 20 runners on offer, I've played 2 in this race, both each way. And even though it's a bigger price, it's probably my better selection. Don't want too much more rain to fall. That is my only worry for this horse, because he's a bit unproven on that ground. But Al Hakim around the 25 to 1 mark for Jean-Claude Rouget. A very consistent horse this season, picking up from where he left off as a juvenile. He started this term over a mile at Chantilly, winning a condition stakes. Then went up to 10 furlongs, which he looked like he needed, and took a nice listed race, improving with every run. He stayed at 10 furlong, finished a really good 4th of 15 in the Prix de Jockey Club, obviously behind Videni that day. But the form of that race has turned out to be absolutely brilliant. Ernesto, who I'm going to come on to as well, was back in 5th that day. If you look at his pedigree of this horse, he doesn't want 12 furlongs. But if you look at the way he races, he wants 12 furlongs. So I'm hoping that from how he's come out in a horse individually will overtake his pedigree in this one. Because if you look at his run in that Prix de Jockey Club, he was flying late, and with an extra 2 furlongs, might have got closer to Videni in the lead. Even though Videni was gone, an extra 2 furlongs might have got close, and it was just interesting. So he's been seen once more at Deauville over 10 furlongs in the Group 2 Guillaume Diarno, and obviously quite a valuable race in France, and he won that. He only just got up late home, but I was hoping that was a stepping stone to this race. He's been saved since August for the Arc. He's drawn in stall 4. I'm happy with that draw. And around the 25 to 1 mark, Al Hakim, if like in the soft ground, I thought had a really big chance. If I'm right, that he wants that step up to 12 furlongs. But I think he was 33 to 1 in the week, now 25 to 1. I think he's got a big chance. Another one I played who's really interesting, I just think he's absolutely solid for an each way play. If you can get 4, maybe 5 places, it's Onesto, another French horse for Fabrice Chapet. 3-year-old son of Frankel, took his form to a new level this season. He's been stepped up in trip and absolutely loved it. And he's second last time out behind Luxembourg in the Irish Champion Stakes. He's absolutely superb form. Luxembourg's at the top of the market around 7 to 2. Onesto's at 14 to 1. Yes, Luxembourg got on top close home, but to be triple the price, nearly quadruple the price of Luxembourg, Onesto at 14 to 1, I thought screen value for me. He needed his first run of the season when he went over the wrong trip of a mile. Went to St. Cloud and landed a Group 2 in good style. As I mentioned, the Prix de Jockey Club, he was 5th, behind Videni, Modern Games, and obviously Al Hakim. He then went up in trip to 12 furlongs at ParisLongchamp over the Arc course and distance in the Grand Prix de Paris, and he stayed on well to win the race by a neck. That is absolutely superb for. As I said, back down to 10 furlongs last time in the Group 1 Irish Champion Stakes, ran a cracking race just to go down to Luxembourg. He's got a solid frame shout. He's highly progressive. He won't mind soft ground. Onesto at 14 to 1. He was at 10 to 1. He's drifted slightly to 14 to 1. I can't understand that personally. Stall 11, no issue. It's not too high. I think he's got a big chance, and I'll be happy to play them 2 against the field. But it is a top race, as always. I'm very much looking forward to that on Sunday. So, Paul, all we're going to have to get down to now is our nap of the weekend. It can be from anywhere, it can be from the races we discussed, but I'll give you the honour this week.
There's a horse I'm looking forward to seeing tonight running at the time of recording in the last at Dundalk. It's a horse called Cozone. Declan McDonough teams up with Matthew Smith once again. Cozone stepped up on previous efforts when finishing second last time out. Does have the favourite Gulliver's Travels to beat, but I'd keep an eye on Cozone in the 8:30 at Dundalk on Friday evening. But my nap for the weekend, I'm going to side with Kings Lynn. I think dropping down in grade, I think if the last couple of Group 1s that Kings Lynn has contested have not left their mark, I think he can take the beating in that 151. It's a listed event at Ascot on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, lovely stuff. So Kings Lynn for the pod, but Cozone around 11 to 1 to watch out for tonight. That could be a lovely price winner if that goes in. And obviously Kings Lynn for the King, I think around 11 to 2 market as we record. So yeah, definitely got a big chance. I'm going to keep it quite simple this week. I had a nice winner last week, didn't I? 14 to 1. I've had to bring that up because it was nice.
Coming, James.
Yeah, one East was a nice one at 14 to 1. I think went off 5 to 1 in the end, so it was heavily backed. But I'm going to keep it quite straightforward this week. Hamish in the Cumberland Lodge stake to 13 to 8. Yes, it's a shorter price this week, but I just think Hamish is the best horse in the race, offering the best form, and just goes and wins this race for William Haggis, and hopefully he can go on to challenge Charlie Appleby in that Trainers Championship. Thanks, Paul, as always, for your selections this week. Hopefully we can find some more big prize winners like we did last week. Please be sure to like this video, comment your selections for the weekend. Obviously, we've covered 9 races there, but any other selections you have for the weekend's race, and put them in below. And make sure you subscribe to Winners Enclosure channel with plenty more content to come. All the best of the weekend, wherever you're back in, and thanks again, Paul.